The club wasn't open yet, but that never stopped us from hanging out there. Most afternoons it was quiet. A few employees moving around. A game playing on one of the TVs. Nothing special. Just a place to relax. Vernon was halfway through a burger when Rico finally spoke up. "Y'all still heading back to New York next week?" I nodded. "Yeah, Mom's wedding coming up." He looked down at his drink for a second. "Mind if I ride with y'all?" I shrugged. "That's cool." Then I looked at him. "You coming for the wedding?" "Nah." A small smile crossed his face. "At least not really." Vernon laughed. "Then what you going for?" For a second, Rico didn't answer. Then he leaned back in his chair. "My dad lives up there." That got my attention. I looked over at him. "Your dad?" "Yeah." "You never talk about him." He nodded. "There's a reason for that." The way he said it made me stop asking questions for a second. Not because he sounded angry, because he sounded disappointed. Vernon picked up on it too. "Y'all don't get along?" Rico shrugged. "It's complicated." "How long since you talked to him?" "A while." Nobody said anything. Sometimes silence tells you more than words. Finally, I broke it. "What's his name?" Rico stared at the table for a moment before answering. "Jermaine." Something about the way he said it told me there was a lot more to that story. "You planning on calling him before you get there?" He shook his head. "Nah." "So you're just gonna show up?" "Probably." Vernon laughed. "Man, that's one hell of a plan." Rico laughed too. "Yeah, well, it's the only one I got." I watched him for a second. For somebody trying to play it cool, he looked nervous as hell. "What if it goes bad?" I asked. He thought about it, then shrugged. "What if it goes good?" Nobody had an answer for that. A few seconds later, Vernon raised his glass. "Well, here's the bad ideas." I laughed and lifted mine. Rico shook his head but raised his too. And for the first time all afternoon, he smiled. Not because he knew what was waiting for him in New York, but because he didn't.
The mall was packed. People everywhere. Couples holding hands. Somebody carrying more shopping bags than any human being should have been carrying. Meanwhile, Renee was treating this wedding like it was her personal mission. I don't like it. I stepped out of the dressing room and looked down at the dress. "What do you mean you don't like it?" "It's boring." I rolled my eyes. "Not everything has to sparkle, Renee." "Yes, it does." "No, it doesn't." She crossed her arms. "If a man invites you to a wedding, you're supposed to show up looking unforgettable." I laughed. "It's a wedding, not a beauty pageant." "Same difference." I shook my head and disappeared back into the dressing room. A few minutes later, I came back out wearing another dress. Renee's eyes got wide. "There she is." "What?" "That's the one." I turned sideways and looked at the mirror. It actually wasn't bad. Simple, elegant, not too much, not too little. I hated that she was right. "I kind of like this one." "Kinda," I smiled. "Okay, I like it." Renee clapped her hands. "Finally." I looked at myself again, then looked away. My stomach did that weird little flip it had been doing ever since Jermaine invited me. Renee noticed immediately. "Oh no," I sighed. "What?" "You like him," I laughed. "Girl, stop." "You do." "I do not." "You absolutely do." I pointed at her. "You're being dramatic." "No, you're smiling." I hated that she had a point. "So tell me again why this wedding is such a big deal." "Because it feels different." "Different how?" I thought about it for a second. "He's introducing me to people." "So?" "So that means something." Renee nodded. "Okay, fair." I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. He wants you around people who matter to him. That hit harder than I expected because deep down, I knew she was right. The funny thing was, I still didn't know much about Jermaine. Not really. Most of his life was still a mystery. You thinking again? Renee said. I know. You do that too much, I laughed. Probably. Come on. Where are we going? Shoes, I groaned. We already found the dress. And now we need the shoes. I followed behind her, shaking my head. Remind me why I brought you? She smiled. Because without me, you'd show up looking like somebody's auntie. I laughed so hard, people turned around and looked at us. And for the first time all week, everything felt easy. Neither one of us knew it yet, but the wedding we were shopping for was about to change a lot more lives than our own.
I couldn't stop thinking about Char. Funny. At my age, you'd think I'd know better. Most days I could keep my mind on work, meetings, deadlines, business. But lately, she had a way of sneaking into my thoughts when I least expected it. Char. Even now, I wasn't sure if that was her real name. Something told me it wasn't. But for some reason, I never pushed her on it. Everybody has things they're not ready to talk about. Lord knows I had my own. Because the truth was, the more serious things became between us, the more I found myself thinking about parts of my life I spent years avoiding. Loose ends, mistakes, regrets. Rico, my son. I shook my head. It was funny how life worked. Here I was thinking about building something new with Char, thinking about a future, while a part of my past was still unfinished. I stared at the phone. My thumb hovered over the call button. One tap. That's all it would have taken. One tap. But after all these years, I still didn't know what to say.